Hey guys, this is The Constant Show where we talk about movies, and I am Constant, the world's smartest crash test dummy. And this week, to celebrate the 1 year anniversary of my channel, I have a very special video for you. So we're going to talk about dodgeball, and particularly who is the hero of dodgeball, while I play dodgeball. As always, timestamps are in the description down below. I hope you guys have fun. Woo! Anniversary! Alright. So, a lot of times, we tend to think that the main character of the story is the hero. And sometimes that's true. Other times we see the hero through a secondary character or another focal point character who has an importance and relevance to the plot. But, like all assumptions and general rules, I think it's a good idea to be able to look on them and see if it applies in a specific scenario. So in dodgeball, the main character is Hero of Dodgeball. He's the family owner of a gym, the owner of a village generally, and it's just super far into debt. Because of that, it's going to get bought out by Ben Stiller's character, who is White Goodman. Now, White Goodman is the owner of Lobo Gym, which we meet at the very beginning of the movie and commercial, where it basically talks about how doing our gym, if you hate yourself, you can be a better you, thanks to White Goodman. He used to be fat, and now he's athletic, and you could be just like him. Back to the hero of dodgeball. So, central character, Hero of Dodgeball. He owns a gym. Jim's family, so him and his married band of losers, they get together to try and come up with some kind of plan to raise money. It starts off with a car wash, where Justin Long is sexually harassed by this weird redneck guy. And then afterwards, he continues his plan just spitballing ideas. Whenever they spitball ideas, there's Gordon, the glasses guy, and he suggests that they play in a dodgeball tournament because there's a $50,000 prize, which just so happens to be the exact amount of money that Vince Vaughn's character Vito LaFleur needs. Vito LaFleur, he's not really into it. He says they don't even know how to play dodgeball, which is ridiculous because I don't know how anybody can understand. The point is just dodge the balls. It's right there in the game. Peter pretends that he was on board way sooner whenever he finally decides that he's going to join the dodgeball team. After Peter finally agrees to play dodgeball with them, he talks about how what's really sad is 6 grown dads in dodgeball to the love interest of the movie, Catherine. And when they play dodgeball, they lose to a group of fairly above average Girl Scouts. And these Girl Scouts just completely wipe the floor with them. Unfortunately, the Girl Scouts get disqualified because they run steroids. Peter is talking to Catherine, and she asks him if he has any motivations in life. And he basically tells her that he's found that if you have a goal, you might not reach it. So it's better not to have one goal. By using, it's actually White Goodman, uses a cardboard cutout to spy on his heroes. And then realizes that he can join a dodgeball team and stop them from getting the $50,000 to prevent his acquisition of their gym. And this altercation causes This altercation causes Patches a hooligan, who they earlier discovered in Justin's TV video, and he agrees to teach them how to play dodgeball. At this point, I don't know why they listen to him, because he's basically just a crazy old man who throws wrenches and then tells them that they should boundary traffic. And the hero's team has Catherine, who gets fired from Lobo Gym after White makes a pass on her and she breaks his nose. Once she gets fired, she can use her softball skills to compete, and she ends up inadvertently winning them game 2. The next couple games that we see are all montaged together. And when they're montaged together until we get to the semifinal match. And the semifinal match, Gordon, who is the glasses wearing guy from earlier in the movie, so after Gordon wins them the semifinals game, the next thing that happens in the story that's plot relevant, Patches dies, and when he dies, it demoralizes Peter before. This leads him to deciding that he wants to quit the team. And when he quits the team, he's just sitting in a bar, hanging out, and he runs into Lance Armstrong and tells him, I have an answer in 3 places, so if I found it, then you should be able to do it, because you're just throwing dodgeball as a grown man. Which Peter finds to be a pretty convincing argument, and he realizes that he can't quit the team. Unfortunately, by this point in the movie, the team has already had to forfeit because they don't have 6 players, which is what they need to continue the game according to the associated dodgeball rules. Alright, so Globo Gym is totally cool with this. If they win the tournament, they'll have the $50,000, and then Peter LaFleur won't be able to buy his gym back. So because of this, they try to get the game ended on a disqualification, and instead, Gordon, who has read all of the obscure dodgeball rules, knows that they actually just have to field a team in time before the game, which they can manage to do now that Peter's here. Unfortunately, it still goes to the judges, and they have to make an executive decision as to whether or not the team can be allowed to compete, because they were still late in the game. They didn't have 6 players at the start. Fortunately, the last judge that's on the panel is Chuck Norris. And Chuck Norris always gives his thumbs up. So now we're at the finals. This is the last showdown between Globo Gym and the average shows. At this point in the movie, the members of the average show all get eliminated, leaving only Justin as the last member of the team. Thankfully, Justin's able to make a catch, which brings in one of his teammates, which just so happens to be Catherine. Catherine herself makes a catch, and then that allows Peter to come into the game, at which point Justin gets eliminated, and now we have a 2-on-2. In the 2-on-2, Catherine decides that she's going to do the heroic thing, and then dive and save Peter from getting hit. Now it's a 2-on-1, final showdown, Peter's in the game. Thankfully, he makes a good throw, and after that, he takes out one of the members of Globo Gym. This makes it just a 1-on-1 now between Peter and White Goodman, the owner of Globo Gym. Thankfully, whenever White throws the ball and gets Peter out, his foot just miraculously happens to step across the line, which allows Peter to continue competing, because there's an obscure rule in the dodgeball associated rules that is, if you get eliminated while somebody else commits a foul, you go to immediate sudden death, which, storytelling-wise, great touch. So now we're in sudden death, the final showdown between Globo Gym and the average shows. They do it kind of like a duel style, where you guys will stand across from each other about 10 paces, and then each one of you gets one ball. At this point, Peter decides he's going to whip out a blindfold, put it on, and then he's going to throw. He manages to make a dodge, which allows him to escape getting eliminated by Globo Gym, and then after that, he makes a throw of his own, which allows him to take out one. So back to my central point. Is Peter actually the hero of the story? Well, I think if you look at his actions throughout the story, you'll find that he actually isn't. For one, he has almost no agency in anything that happens. He only makes 2 decisions throughout the entire course of the plot, and both of them are wrong. The first one, when he decides he's going to put on a blindfold so that he can compete and match his honor, doesn't even make sense. It would be like in the Karate Kid if Daniel broke his own leg before he decided that he was going to do the crane kick. On to his second big decision. So in the movie, he makes a bet on his team that they're going to win. He bets an entire $100,000 that he sells the average shows for. The thing is, though, he couldn't have actually known that this was going to work out in his favor. As a matter of fact, thanks to him, the team nearly had a forfeit, and it was only Gordon's rules loading, and then the judges being on his side that allowed him to even continue in the first place. Okay, so maybe he's not an active hero, maybe he doesn't do stuff, maybe he's just a moral person, somebody who is good to look up to. But if we look throughout the movie, I don't think that that's necessarily true either. For one, he doesn't have any merit. His entire philosophy of his life is just, go with the flow. He has no goals to speak of. And it's pretty much only love that gets him through a lot of the encounters that he has in the movie. He's also not particularly a good moral example. So there's 2 things that we're supposed to pay Globo Gym for. The first one is that Globo Gym wants to buy the average shows. Globo Gym at the time is worth $1 million. The average shows is worth approximately $50,000. If you do the math on this, it equates to 0.025% of their total wealth. However, on the flip side, whenever Peter makes the decision to buy Globo Gym, he has $5 million. Globo Gym is $4 million. This means that he spent 80% of his total wealth, which we know because he's had anything at the start of the movie, on fighting a rival. He could have given each one of those people $773,000. Instead, he decided to spend all of that money on buying out Globo Gym And the thing is, we know he's not a successful gym owner, so that place is going to be out of business in no time. And that's a lot of people's jobs that Peter is going to just ruin by not collecting gym memberships. Okay, so maybe he's not an active hero or a moral hero, definitely not the leader, due to the fact that both times a critical decision has to be made. Peter just completely ignores it and decides that he's going to give up. He doesn't really care. He wasn't that invested in the first place. But maybe he's a thematic hero. Maybe he's somebody who reinforces the message of the movie, that it's okay to be whoever you are. The problem is the movie doesn't actually give us this message. If we look at the reason for Peter's success, 9 times out of 10 it's because somebody had an obscure skill that just happened to come in handy. His girlfriend is a softball pitcher, his best friend studies obscure sports, and has a raging beast inside that allows him to win a game. Justin making a catch was completely unprecedented because... Sorry. No, that was great. So he doesn't really have any of the qualities. I mean, I guess if that's the message of the movie, it ends up being closer to be whoever you are and just hope that a bunch of your friends are hyper-talented in ways that are going to benefit you. So if he's not a hero, then who is? Well, I think there's 3 people who could actually be considered candidates for the hero of the movie. The first is Gordon. And the thing is, he actually has the whole hero's journey. At the start of the story, we learn about his need, that he's a meek person, and he has this inner animal, this disconnect between him and his emotions, something that his coach, Patrick O'Houlihan, actually points out. In addition to this, he actually has merit. If we look at the reason that the average shows were able to succeed, it's because of him. He's the one who knew about the tournament in the first place, but on top of that, he's also saved their team as a dodgeball player more than one occasion, including him taking out a 5-to-1 situation. He literally carried the whole team. If he is the hero of the story, his story is one about redemption. About this guy who everybody said was too meek, who wasted too much time watching ESPN 8. The next thing you know, he's a shareholder in a multi-million-dollar gym company that just opened up. The second candidate hero for this movie is actually beloved Jessica. So if we look at her story throughout the movie, it starts off with her being this, again, shy, unassuming being teller. And then we start to learn more about her, and she's this badass woman softball player. She gets kicked out of her company because this guy is basically just hitting on her. And because of that, now she's on the hunt for vengeance. She has more depth than your standard woman scorned. Because in the climax of the movie, when she's finally about to enact her vengeance, and she's about to lay it on the Lobo Gym with those mad dodgeball skills, she instead decides to take a hit for her friend Peter. She's a woman who will sacrifice her vengeance for the people that she cares about, and I think we can respect that kind of depth and maturity in storytelling. Now, the last candidate pick, and this is arguably going to be the most controversial, but I need you guys to just stick with me the whole way, okay? This is a roller coaster ride for me. It's going to have its ups. White Goodman is actually the third potential hero of our story. And before you click off the video, I have my reasons. So I think White could qualify for being a specific subclass of hero, that is, the tragic hero. This is somebody we learn about who has their virtues, but unfortunately, alongside them, they also have a fatal flaw. This fatal flaw is going to be their undoing, and it's an inevitable part of the story. It's kind of like how old stories used to function as morality tales. This character is undone by what we believe to be a negative trait. So if we look at White's story, right, his journey begins with him having a lot of weight and being very unhappy with himself. So White is unhappy with himself, and he has low self-esteem. He has this obsession with food that persists even after he loses all the weight. Very early on in the movie, we see him actually winning this battle against food, but in a strange kind of way. So he has a donut, and he shocks himself in the nipples to prevent himself from actually eating it, which shows on one hand, yes, he has control because he can resist this urge, but on the other hand, it's like allowing yourself to be that tempted by something. And it seems like there's this almost focus on dominating the food in the same way that the food did to him. This flaw also serves to be his undoing in the climax of the movie, Before Peter makes the last throw, he tells White that he looks back those pants, kind of alluding to White's past trauma. Something that we even see White thinking about as he walks away and grabs the back of his pant legs. So accordingly, White as a character is undone by this flaw, right? And if we look at the things that disqualify Peter from being a hero, we find that White actually has a lot of them. The first thing that we talked about is merit and active decision making. Well, if you think about it, White is somebody who's had to manage a $4 million company, and he has the discipline to lose all that weight. He takes an active role in shaping the plot. It's his decision to buy the average Joe's that forms the first call to action that our heroes use, or are supposed to be heroes here. Maybe heroes is kind of important. Additionally, every major thing that happens has to do with him. It's his self-consciousness that leads him to acting extra whenever he meets Catherine, which is the thing that leads him to hitting on her aggressively and then firing her so he's being dated. He's a dick. I'm not going to take away from that. But at the same time, he's a dick who could have been an awesome person had he not fallen down this tragic path. He's already done good things. His gym has helped a lot more people than Hero of Dodgeball has. Additionally, looking at the next step of the thematic hero, well, White serves a very important message in the plot equal to Peter. Instead of a man succeeding, his story is told as a man's failure. Because the message of be who you are is something that applies directly inverse to White. He can't be who he is because he has poor self-esteem. And it's that same thing that drives him to needing to compete with Peter, needing to buy the gym, needing to just be as obsessive as possible about everything that he does. In a way, it's really a sad story because he's bookended on either side of it, as a man who's lost the battle with food. And that has been the movie Dodgeball. Those are my thoughts on it. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. And this is The Constant Show. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. It's been The Constant Show. Have a great night.